Welcome to Library-ish, the podcast where we talk books, libraries, and all the reading adjacent things we love to overthink.
Today we're going to talk about something a little controversial.
We're taking a risk.
We're talking about books that were better as movies.
I know, deep breath, everyone.
Because usually it's the other way around. Usually it's the book was better, full stop.
But every once in a while, something interesting happens. A story makes the jump to the screen and somehow becomes stronger.
Maybe the pacing improves, maybe the visuals bring the world to life, or maybe the story just works better when it's seen instead of read.
Today, we're exploring those rare adaptations that didn't just work, they elevated the original.
We'll be talking about what changed, what worked, and why some stories actually benefit from being adapted.
And yes, we are fully prepared for at least a little disagreement.
We welcome it.
So whether you're skeptical, curious, or already have a few titles in mind, let's go.
Woohoo!
So movies that improved upon the book.
You know, when you came to me with this title, I thought it was a good one because we always talk about how books are better. We always talk about, oh my gosh, the book was better than the movie. The book was better. Don't bother with the movie, darling. The book was so much better.
Oh, everybody talks about that. That's always, the literary experience is always supposed to be superlative to the visual experience. But heck, let's be honest. We all really love going to the movies. And sometimes the movie is just more fun, more engaging, tells the story a little better. Sometimes it's because the format of the book really translates better to a visual picture. And sometimes it's just because they've changed it.
Right? Or the language that the book is written in, or, because there are a lot of the books that were written way back in the day, when you read them nowadays, because just the language is different, it kind of feels stiff.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
And if it were to be performed, it would be really stiff. Even movies, if you watch, because I've been on a kick where I've been watching 1940s movies, so much fun. We have so many in the collection. If you want to, check out a DVD, we just Arsenic and Old Lace with Cary Grant and all these other fun ones.
That's a good one. We also have them streaming on Canopy, which is our streaming service. So make sure you check that out.
But when you watch it and you listen to them talk, the language that they're using, the way they act, the way it's very stiff compared to nowadays.
The Mid-Atlantic accent, which is actually not a real accent. It was developed purely for cinema. And it's supposed to be an amalgamation of all of America, like a very American accent.
That's fancy.
That's funny?
It was Katharine Hepburn. They always made fun of the accent, right?
Yep.
And I remember, she played in Star Wars, very famous actress. Debbie Reynolds' child.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher, thank you. She was talking to her mom, and her mom would have the family voice, and then she would have, oh, darling, you should come around for tea.
Yes.
They had the mom, the actress voice. Yes. She just had the two separate ones.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so when you came to me with this subject of the movie being better, I'm like, oh my, this is something I actually have to think about. This is something like I have to use my little gray cells, and I actually have to think about. Hercule Poirot is another one where he's got a bunch of movies. And if you read the books, which I'm going through them right now, I highly recommend. The language is very, very different.
I have to look up his name now. Now you've
Did I not pronounce it correctly?
No, you did. But no, there's a YouTuber that I watch. His name is Miles Ledoux. And it's spelled Ledeux.
Oh, is that French?
Deux. Yeah. And he basically takes an Agatha Christie book or a series of books or something, and he'll talk about the different film adaptations that have been done and how they compare to the book, or how they compare to each other, or how they compare. He's so good. And he directs a lot of community theater.
That's
great. So forth. And it's just, he's really good. And he gives really good analysis of the different things. So, and he also has similar opinions to mine about the Kenneth Branagh Poirot movies. So, of course.
They are so different. They're so very, and they're full of action, and they're full of, it's like Michael Bay all over again, where it's just like explosion
without the excellent lighting.
Right? But they're different, and it's in one way it is better because of the times that have changed, the values that have changed, the language that's changed. So yeah, this was a great topic.
I mean, one film that was brought up a lot in this context of being an older book, that people love the movie more than they do the experience of reading the book, was The Last of the Mohicans.
Oh,
That's something when I was doing research for this and trying to remember, because it's hard to remember whether your favorite movies were actually book adaptations. Sometimes it's not exactly clear.
That's very true.
And sometimes you just want to think about, I wanted to see the whole range so I could see if there was something I had forgotten or wouldn't necessarily think of right off the bat. And Last of the Mohicans came up over and over again. People found reading it to be extremely difficult, but watching the movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, they actually enjoyed and were able to absorb the story and the adventure. And it came up over and over again. It was one of the main titles that came up. And I just think it's interesting because you brought up being an older title. We know there have been a lot of Jane Austen adaptations.
Yeah, and we just talked about her in our last podcast and the fact that what she wrote, because now if you watch a Jane Austen movie, a movie based on one of her books, it really does feel just like a romantic comedy. It's a romantic comedy. It's a date night movie. It's let's go see Emma. It's just like Clueless, you know? I mean,
when you think Bridget Jones' Diary is sort of a take on a Jane Austen.
It is. It's a retelling
story.
But Bridget Jones's Diary is very much a romantic comedy. Jane Austen's books were not meant to be romantic comedy. She didn't write them like that. And in fact, a lot of the things that she put in there could have gotten her in serious trouble with the crown because it was a different time. Habeas corpus had been suspended. They were dealing with a lot of inner turmoil within the country, and a lot of writers were. We talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah, check out the last episode if you're interested in more talk specifically. It's the episode about women authors that changed literature.
Yeah,
and it's a great. January gives a great.
Yeah.
Overview.
Oh yeah, Jane Austen's amazing, but when you watch a movie based on one of her books, it's very much a romantic comedy. It's very much, oh, Mr. Darcy, oh my goodness, I'm getting the vapors. You know, I mean, it's
somehow it turned into Gone with the Wind, but that's okay.
Which is also based on a book.
Exactly. Which was like the biggest selling book.
It was, and it was one of the most popular movies as well.
Yes. I think that's one where you could say that they were both of equal stature, that people enjoyed them both. I don't think I've ever heard of someone say, but the one was better than the other.
See, I can't speak from experience. I haven't read or seen. So I'm like,
you have not seen the
I have not seen Gone with the Wind. No, I need to. It's on my list. It's on my TBW list.
To be watched. It's so funny because Gone with the Wind would air every year, and I can't remember what holiday it was. But it was like a holiday movie. It would be on once a year, or maybe it's just because my mother loved that movie so much that it was like a holiday when it was airing because she would prep for it and everything else. And actually, my first movie is a similar one. It's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or the book is known Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. My particular favorite is the 1971 version of that
Gene
movie
Wilder.
with Gene Wilder. And that is because this is one of those circumstances I talked about earlier where they actually changed the book quite significantly. And in fact, Roald Dahl had written the screenplay and then divested himself. He wanted nothing to do with it. He did not want to be associated with the movie at all because they made several major changes.
As they do.
And in particularly in this version, Gene Wilder had a lot of input into how Willy Wonka was going to be perceived by the audience. There's a very famous story about the fact that the first time that he appeared on screen, he specifically asked to use a cane and walk with a limp so that he could
do the whole
stick
thing.
the cane and do that forward roll purposefully so that throughout the rest of the movie, that was a visual cue that the audience should never trust him. Well, that just shows sort of the dichotomy between what is in a book where you're really talking about the inner life of the individual characters or the story, as opposed to the visual representation that then when you're a viewer, you interpret. as being the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different way to tell a story. Some of the things that were different in the book were there was a character named Slugworth that was
Mm-hmm.
different in the movie.
I
This
remember him.
this character is in the book as well, but is a very minor character that
Right.
is just like a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, he's a very active participant in helping Willy Wonka do his little game that he's doing with these children. That was purely a device that was activated in the film. And also another thing that Roald Dahl objected to was the fact that in the book, the child's father is still alive and works at a toothpaste factory.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, they killed the father off.
As they often do. Right.
Yes, which gave the child an opportunity to connect with the grandfather. It validated the reason for the grandfather to go with Charlie to the factory. It made more sense within the visual and the time frame for the father to just be not part of the story. Later on, in later versions, later movies, that character was restored. But it's one of those things that I just really like the heightened stakes. I like the focus on the poverty, which was just sort of part of the story in the book, but became.
Well, it started him low and he ended high, you know?
Yes. But it's like Roald Dahl just had it as Charlie's circumstances. It was just sort of to paint a background, whereas it was more of a plot point,
right,
in the movies. And also another thing Roald Dahl disagreed with was the fact that that Willy Wonka was the main character, not Charlie. He really felt the movie was about the child and the child's experience.
Which is really ironic when you consider his line of books and how in every single one, those poor kids are just dealing with some stuff.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he, as an author, is now like in modern terms kind of a questionable,
right?
But still, it's you know, it's a fun story. He's fun, yeah. And I also think just like Grimm's fairy tales and Some Mother Goose, not all of it is meant to be.
A lot of it's meant to be a warning to kids.
Yeah, it's not all meant to be light and fun and everything. It's supposed to be a little creepy and a little scary and a little unnerving. Children should experience that so they know when they experience those feelings can pass and they can be safe again. They're meant to be cautionary. They're meant to challenge.
Right.
And this is the same thing. But I think it was very smart for the studio to focus on the adult part of the story, on Willy Wonka and that character, not just because Gene Wilder was a name and would bring in those box office dollars, but because even if it's a children's film, you want the adults to be entertained. Yes. And if you look at contemporary films, Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
That was such a fun one. I loved that as a kid.
That was one of my favorites. Again, creepy, scary character.
Fair.
You know, they are a little more focused on the adults. Mary Poppins, which was a few years earlier.
I love Mary Poppins.
There are children in it, but it's not about the children.
It's not.
So I think that's very fair with Willy Wonka. So that's one of my favorites. What about you?
Okay, so since we're starting a little further back, I want to talk about The Count of Monte Cristo. Nice. Specifically, because this is a book, this is one of my favorite books, especially my favorite classical book. I've got 3 kids, which I've talked about. 2 of them are named after characters in this book. The book itself, if you're going to read this book, get the unabridged brick. Get the giant, and if you can, get the penguin one because it gives you little notes as you go about, back in the day, this was this, and back in the day, this was that.
I love that when you can get some background about the story.
Penguin Publishers does that so much. I remember when I was in high school, I read Pride and Prejudice from Penguin, and they did the same thing. They gave it, this is this because of this. In the time, this would have been common. The Penguin edition of Count of Monte Cristo, it does the same thing. And I loved reading. It took me a minute because, like I said, brick. But it is so good. And it was so lovely. And it was my favorite book. They've made this into a movie multiple times. Now, the one I'm talking specifically about is the one that came out in 2002. This one, the book and the movie are 2 very different entities. The movie was adapted. And if you're a huge fan of the book for all the many reasons you should be a big fan of this book, a lot of times you might not like it. I really enjoyed the movie because it was a fun ride for me. And the changes because they did change quite a bit. One, because you're going from this to this, you know,
yeah.
you know,
a book that takes you 10 hours to read visually
10
in 2 hours, an hour and 30 minutes. Yeah.
10 hours, my hookus. We're talking like at least 10 days, you know,
Yeah.
of, you know, reading habitually. And you only have like an hour and a half, 2 hours max where you have this runtime. So you've got to cut a lot out. But they changed the ending to make it a bit more romantic. They changed, you know, because the book ended one way completely, and then the movie ended differently. And it had a lot to do with what was considered acceptable in that society. Because in the book, Edmond Dante is a sailor, and he's in love with his small town, you know, girlfriend Mercedes, and and my daughter's name is Mercedes.
Yeah, now I understand.
So he falls in love with her. They're going to get married. Problem being is that there's 3 men who hate Edmond Dante because of what he has, because they're jealous of him. There's a man that wants Edmond Dante's job as a ship, in the ship. I forget where he's not quite a captain, I don't think, but he's like just below it. There's another man that wants his girlfriend. He wants to marry Mercedes himself, and that's her cousin, which was really acceptable back then.
Oh yeah.
You know? And then there's a third man that just hates the fact that Edmond Dante is just a cool guy, and he just does not like him. He you know, he's just a very hateful man. I think that's Danglers. Anyway, so they conspire together to frame Edmond Dante to be a Napoleon sympathizer, which back then was a big deal. And they arrest him and throw him in the Bastille for life. And they say, that's it. You're done. So he's framed by these 3 men. And while he's in the Bastille, his Mercedes marries the man that put him in there, marries her cousin, has a child with him. The other man gets the promotion that Edmund wanted. And then the third one that just hated him, he was a hateful man. So he just drank himself into a stupor anyway. You know, you can't.
He just goes about his business.
You know, there's something to be said for being ugly on the inside and how trash takes itself out eventually.
Yep.
So Edmund eventually breaks out, discovers Treasure Island, and there's a whole lot of details I'm skipping over. So if you want to read this, please do. It's lovely. And then with all this money, he goes back as the Count of Monte Cristo to exact his revenge. The movie gets different around this part. This is when things differ, because the love story with him and Mercedes in the book, she completely, and it leaves out a character completely, Haiti, Hade is how it's supposed to be pronounced. I read it in my brain and didn't hear it out loud, so my brain always calls it Haiti. My middle daughter's name is Haiti, and she hates it. But so
you really love this book.
I do, and the third baby, because I've got 3 girls, we were going to name her Valentina because that's the third character in this book, but it was vetoed by her father, so we didn't do that one. And there's a whole other story for that. Anyway, so and so that character, Haiti, was completely cut out of the movie because she was a Greek princess in the book that had wanted to get revenge on the man that married Mercedes. You know, there's all these subplots and all these things that are going around. And in the end, spoiler alert, in the end, what happens
for a book that's 200 years old.
Right? Spoiler alert. Edmund doesn't wind up with Mercedes because she broke his heart. She married her cousin while he was in prison.
Yeah.
And had a kid, did all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he actually ended up with the Greek princess. And because she had his back the whole time, they got together to get his revenge and all that stuff. And he left with the Greek princess, leaving Mercedes back in the village. In the movie, he ends up with Mercedes because the Greek princess isn't a character.
Right.
And it turns out in the movie that the son that she had was really Edmund's, and it wasn't the man that she married.
Oh,
and
so they really are like, don't know.
Movie magic. Yeah, 100%. So you leave the movie going, I feel so good. Now, like I said, I love this movie. Yeah. I do, because it's a fun ride.
Yeah.
But I know how the story actually ended.
Right.
You know, it's not like they were inaccurate, and I did not enjoy that. No, it was more, okay, I see what you did there, and I see why you did it, and I had a lot of fun watching. I think this is amazing. So it's one of my favorites. And the guy that plays the Witcher and Superman, Henry Cavill, yeah, he plays the son of Mercedes back, and he's like young, and this is like 2002. He's so young. He is a
baby.
I know. And as I was looking it up earlier, I'm like, that was him. Oh my gosh, he's so young. But yeah, I completely recommend it. It's a fun watch. The movie is a tome. I mean, the book is a tome, but it's a fun read.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great things in it.
It sounds like a real adventure. I haven't read it.
It is. It's there's so much intrigue, and there's so many plot twists, and there's just all these different pieces to this big puzzle that makes his whole revenge, because he's been thinking about this revenge. He's had time to think about this revenge, and now that he has this opportunity to do so, he's not going to waste it. And it's it's delicious. Books are food. I will die on that hill. But it's so good. So I would definitely recommend Counting Monte Cristo. And then the 2002 edition is the one that I thought was the most fun
of the film.
Yes, of the films, because there's like 3. There was one in the 1950s, 1940s. There was one in the 1970s, and then there's this 2002 one.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I love that. That's so neat. Well, my next film that I like over the book is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yes, from, I don't even know what year it was, the 1960s. And the book was written by Arthur C. Clarke, the film directed by Stanley Kubrick. They were created simultaneously. So Kubrick had the concept and got Arthur C. Clarke involved in the project, and then they constructed the book together. And they were supposed to be released tandem and reflect each other, with the book giving slightly more detail than a cinematic experience would. What's interesting about the whole experience, there are many things that are different. The monolith's purpose in the book is different. The novel, there are actually tools for alien civilizations to encourage evolution. Kubrick does not make the distinction about the monoliths. And again, spoilers, too late, I know, but again, million years old. Also, Hal behaves differently in the book than he does in the film. And of course, the novel is much more detailed because obviously it's larger and there's more opportunity. The thing about those differences, though, is that they were not just differences between the two artists' point of view. The collaboration of what the novel was going to look like was a very close collaboration between Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. However, Kubrick completely misled Arthur C. Clarke about what the story of the film was going to be.
Oh, no.
And Arthur C. Clarke did not know they were going to be different until the film was actually screened in front of an audience. And he was apparently very upset. Kubrick really wanted to preserve the integrity of the cinematic version of the film. And he wanted a lot of it to remain enigmatic. You have the monoliths, you have the star child at the end, you have the entire journey. It's a movie that, while all movies are passive experiences, 2001 is hyper passive. You barely know what's going on. There's barely a narrative to that cinematic experience. It's almost purely a visual experience that you're having. And I think he certainly wanted the book to tell a story and to be engaging and to be successful, but he did not want the book to be reflective of what was happening on the screen. He wanted them, without telling Arthur C. Clarke, to be two unique, separate entities, because he never wanted, and if anyone who's a fan of Kubrick, which, how could you not be? But I know people are not fans of Kubrick, but there is an enigmatic quality to all of his films. There is always a part of the story that remains undefined.
Mm-hmm.
And while this is his most undefined work, I think that he didn't want anything to conflict with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he didn't want anything to even give an audience a hint
Mm-hmm.
as to what those things meant. He really, and he said in interviews later on in his life and so forth, that he really wanted people to be able to come to their own conclusions when they were watching this
Mm-hmm.
movie. He didn't want them to have a narrative. He didn't want it to be defined. He didn't want a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
He just wanted them to experience what that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that because I think it's interesting to keep those two mediums so separate yet connected.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that if you ever have seen 2010,
Mm-mm.
which is a great movie
Mm-hmm.
and a great book, but Arthur's that one, the horse was before the cart in that one. Actually, he wrote the book, and then the cinematic experience came later. There again, it's a great movie, great book. But I think there's something to be said for a filmmaker wanting people to be able to get details and to have a good story,
Mm-hmm.
but also wanting the art that he created in the form of that visual media of film to remain its own separate thing, which was very much with The Shining and everything. That was sort of his MO when making movies. So that's why I brought it up. I just think 2001 does what a movie is supposed to do. It's a visual feast, and it gives you a lot to think about. And the book does too, but in its own way. One is more of a philosophical experience, and the other is more a literary, science-based narrative experience. But they're connected, but they're separate. And I think that's wonderful.
So my next one
Yes.
I would like to discuss is, Julia Quinn. She's a romance author, and she has a whole series. She has a lot. I mean, this lady is a machine, but she's got a whole series of Regency romance books, and it all starts with The Duke and I. If you're listening and you're a fan, you know what I'm talking about. I'm covering the mic. But yeah, she wrote this. I mean, there's I think at least 8 books in this original series, and then there's a little couple of spin-off series for it. The first one is The Duke and I, and it was adapted into a TV show, which many people know about, called The Bridgertons. Yes.
Wow.
The Bridgertons has I am, because it's not the same. The book and the show are not the same at all. I mean, the big plot points are the same. You've got the same characters, A ends up with B.
Set in the same period.
Yeah, set in the same period. But the TV show purposefully threw in a ton of delicious diversity. Not only is there a ton of delicious diversity, but there's more drama in the TV show. There's all these plot lines and all this, like, it has you on the edge of your seat, biting your nails, that the book because the book is a love, it's one of those formulaic love stories, and it's very comfortable. And it has a formula to it where this, and then this, and then this, and then, and then there's a happily ever after at the end, but you as a romance reader, you know what to expect when it comes to a Julia Quinn book. And it's the same as every other romance book. And honestly, like I said, I've said this many a time, I love myself a good romance, but every so often reading the same kind of formulaic stuff, it gets a little tiresome. I mean, it's comfortable, don't get me wrong, and I'll go back to it if I need a palate cleanser, but because every so often you read that one book and you're like, ugh. Book is food, and that one just didn't hit me right, so you go back and you grab a comfortable author. That one was that grimy fruit that you take a bite of and it's just all grainy in your mouth and you're like, bleh, 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 bleh. So you go for a palate cleanser, you go for something an author that you're comfortable with. And Julia Quinn is one of mine. She's really good. And I loved The Duke and I, and my favorite was number 2, The Viscount. So good. Anyway, so the Bridgerton took these stories and adapted them. And not only did they throw in a ton of diversity, because you've got the Queen, who wasn't in the books. You know, Queen Charlotte was a brand new, wonderful chef's kiss character who was not in the books. And you've got all these people from different backgrounds that are in there. And the last season was Gentleman, oh goodness, Offer from a Gentleman, which just came out. It's book number 3, I want to say. Book 3 or 4? 3 or 4? No, 3. Book number 3, because I'm thinking Penelope was book 4, he was book 3. Anyway, that one just came out, and it's got a Cinderella feel to it, and the show still has that Cinderella feel to it, where it's like the maid that was, but little itty bitty things have been changed, you know, to make it flow a little bit, to make it, and then at the same time, big plot holes were not plot holes, but plot switches and plot things were added. And it's just, it is so good. And you can read the entire series and then go and watch the show and still be surprised and still be excited and still be waiting for the next, you know, the next episode to drop and still be going, you know. And my favorite is still season 2, where you have Kate and you have Anthony Bridgerton, because it's just, the book was adorable. The show, that season was adorable. And even all the changes they made, it was just so good. And I'm a big fan. I keep fangirling. I want to hold a program. I want to hold a Bridgerton tea party. Dang it.
We should do that.
It would be so much fun to
We
play.
should do that in the fall.
Really? Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be like, I would go to the thrift store and get like mismatched tea things. And
let's do it.
We'll get tea, and then we could have all the Bridgerton soundtracks are on Amazon.
Let's do it.
It sounds like so much fun. Then we could dress in Bridgerton stuff, and it would be delightful. Sorry, I'm tangent. But no, all the changes that they made for the show are delightful. And it's Shonda Rhimes, I think, is the person that produces it.
Yeah.
And she always tries to make sure that her cast has a good amount of people from diverse backgrounds. And, you know, it's all mixed in there.
It's a broad representation of the public. I think that's amazing. And I know that's one thing about serial streaming and television and things like that, does give an opportunity to be able to build on an original story. The Handmaid's Tale is another book that when it was adapted for television, they were able to insert all sorts of different plot points that aren't in the book, just to create a more interesting and more varied storyline that can last over several episodes. So just like with the Bridgerton thing.
Well, it's just, there's so much more drama. There's so much more drama. And I because in the books, if there's a lot of drama in the books, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. But it's just so different, and it's so refreshing to have that extra layer of drama in the show. You know, even though I know he's gonna end up with her, you know, because it's a love story, but it's how we get there. And the next season, they've given a few little hints, and it's going to be a sapphic season, which isn't in the books. And you've got a couple of, you know, female characters that are going to follow, and they haven't done that yet. The closest they've gotten to it is when they had this latest one for Offer from a Gentleman. The male main character just kind of has fun with female and male counterparts before he decided to get married, and they called him a notorious rake, which fair. But they've hinted at it, and they've shown little clips, and this next one's going to, and I'm excited. I'm here for it. I'm like, bring on the diversity. Give me all the BIPOC. I want the LGBTQ+. I want all of it.
Well, you know, that's about life, and it's about, you know, experiencing things through other people's eyes. It's so much fun.
It's so good.
That's what art's about.
Right? And they just, all the changes they've made are just for the better. It's just so good. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. Sorry.
Can't tell.
Yeah, right? Right? I loves it. I loves it. Give me a good Regency any day.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've got a little bit of a list that we took from BuzzFeed of a lot of things that are coming out. An Offer from a Gentleman is one of those
I mentioned that.
book adaptations that we have. Another one that has already come out that a lot of people have seen, and a lot of people have said the movie was fantastic, is Project Hail Mary.
We had a couple of people we work with that went and saw that and came back. One gentleman in particular was like, you guys have to see this movie. It's so good.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time.
He does.
In November, the new Susan Collins, the new Hunger Games.
That's Hamish, Sunrise at the Reaping.
Yeah. Is going to be out. And of course, your favorite,
Emily
Henry.
This one came out already.
But, well, she's got a few though, doesn't she?
I'm hoping so. You know, like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I would love to see. My favorite one is Book Lovers and Funny People. I think Funny People I loved more than Book Lovers, actually. Or Funny Story, excuse me, wrong one. Funny People is a movie with Adam Sandler. Anyway, Funny Story is my favorite Emily Henry book, and it's about a children's librarian. Gee, I wonder why I like it so much. But I
doesn't
really,
hit too close to home.
Oh my gosh, I really want them to adapt that one. I think they're currently trying to adapt Big Beautiful Story. Or Big Beautiful Life, that's what it is. So it'll be fun. But yeah, this one came out in January, and everybody's been talking about how good it is.
Yeah, no, it's I was thinking it's Colleen Hoover that has a couple of adaptations
they have been
this year.
Reminders
like of Him and Verity is coming out this year.
That is a weird one. I mean, everybody I've talked to about that, I'm like, so what do you think about Verity? They're like, it was weird. So if you're in the mood for a weird story, Verity is your girl.
Yeah. And then in October, just in time for Halloween, October 23rd is the release date. Nicholas Sparks has done a book with M. Night Shyamalan.
They're already turning that into a movie that just came out.
And that's going to be out just in time for Halloween, just in time for
Hot
spooky
diggity
season.
dog.
You know, which is going to be an interesting one. We've got Agatha Christie, The Seven Dials was adapted and came out in the beginning of this year. Next month in May, Remarkably Bright Creatures, which was an extremely popular book by Shelby Van Pelt, will be released on Netflix. That's going to be absolutely huge.
I'm excited. Oh, I'm so excited.
There's so much romance. There's so much romance.
We talked about this last time.
By Allie Hazelwood.
Oh, there's another Hoover.
Yep. A Verity and the
Reminders of Him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we talked about this last podcast, the romance genre. You know, it's a powerhouse. People are spending all their money, you know, to read romance books. The romance genre makes, gosh, what was it? Twice the amount
at least
of the secondary
far
one.
And away.
Yeah, it's by far the most profitable genre. So,
and I would imagine for cinema or, you know, that visual media, it's probably the same. I mean, people love action, but I think the dollar goes more toward romance.
Most definitely. Dinner and a movie. Oh, come on now. Yeah.
Than it does toward action, even though that's my
a date movie night. You know, I mean, it's all love. So those are some of the books we think were actually better as movies.
And to be clear, we still love books.
Deeply, passionately. No need to revoke our library cards.
But it's interesting to see how stories can change depending on the format. Sometimes what works on the page doesn't translate directly.
And sometimes a director, a cast, or a visual approach brings out something the book only hinted at.
At the end of the day, it's not really about one being better than the other.
It's about how stories evolve and how we experience them differently.
We'd love to hear from you. What's a movie you think improved on the book?
And are there any takes you strongly disagree with? Because we know there will be.
If you're feeling inspired to compare for yourself, stop by your library.
Check out the book, watch the movie, and decide where you land.
Thanks for listening to Library-ish.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.